Chase Farm, Neil McCready here, trying something a little different today. So we'll take your questions over on our right. We'll start talking a little bit. Give everybody a second to get in here. Can everyone hear us? Let's start with that. Yes, no, maybe. Somebody give us a heads up. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
There we go.
And this will go to the site afterwards. We'll put it there at rebelgrove.com in the meantime as well. So anyway, we'll hang out. We'll ask a little bit here. Ole Miss 40, Southeastern Louisiana 29. There for a minute, it had shades of Southeastern getting a late drive to potentially look like something in 2010 that we're not going to talk about. We're not gonna go there, but there was a second. But Ole Miss survives, and Neil's column either is up or will be up in a second.
It's up.
Okay, it's up. So much of today, they got the win. They avoided that. Cal did not necessarily look great against North Texas. They won a close game there against Seth Luttrell and the Mean Green. For Ole Miss, it's just kind of survive. It's pile up wins. It's get better. Today, not exactly a real clean effort on either side of the ball. We'll get to some of that in a second. But, Neil, for the most part, you just sort of get through it and you move on. At the end of the day, you're 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can – and I wrote about this. You can overreact a couple of ways on this. One, you can do the whole, oh, my God, they almost lost to a BCS or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to call it Division I AA, and I feel better because Rich Rodriguez just said the same
Did
thing.
you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just maybe it's a generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fair to a degree. There are people that are out there trying to do the other spin, which was, hey, you held them to under 70 yards rushing. Yeah, you did, but you gave up a lot. You got exposed a little. This team's going to get exposed. It's going to get exposed throughout the course of the season. It has flaws. It has holes. Those holes really can't be overcome in a couple of spots. So there's a lot there. There's a young quarterback. It was his third start. I thought today it showed more than it had in maybe even the first two starts. Well, the first start, it was just the offense as a whole. I thought he looked good against Arkansas. I thought he maybe took a small step back this week, which young quarterbacks do. He's going to have peaks and valleys. Thought his ball security wasn't good. Some of it wasn't his fault. And yet at the end of the day, you look at his numbers. He's 21 for 30. He threw for 239, two touchdowns, no interceptions. He 6 rushes for minus 28, so he got sacked a good bit.
I got sacked 3 times.
I just didn't think it was his very best game, but considering how off he was at times, and I told you during the game, I thought he was floating some passes. Given that, there were some positives there. And at the end, the one thing that I'll say for them again is in the fourth quarter, we joked about it, but we joked about it because it was starting to kind of look like Jacksonville State 2011. They didn't do that. They finished. They got a score. They got a stop. They did some things, put the game away, and people can say what they want. Someone just made a comment, LSU's looking lethargic right now. Obviously, we don't see it, but Auburn was playing Kent State, and teams are playing nobodies. Half the league's playing a nobody. You can't get kids to say, hey, let's get psyched up for Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
We got this big league game, and then later that night, Cal goes to Washington and wins, and you know that Cal's coming to your place in a week. You can't say, hey, fellas, Southeastern Louisiana, they can beat you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't convince SEC teams of that, even though it happens around the country and the Citadel beats people and stuff like that. They're kids. You can't convince kids that this is going to happen. And then especially probably the worst thing that could have happened to Ole Miss today happened. They scored right out of the gate. Boom. Got ahead 13-3 or whatever, and they start thinking, we got this. It's hot. Get a little lethargic. The fans leave at the half. Next thing you know, you're getting tested. At the end of the day, it's a win. History will remember it as a win. All of the flaws that are out there, they're there. The offensive line is going to be a work in progress the entire season.
The interior was not good today.
The interior was bad today. And frankly, the interior is probably going to be some shade of bad most of the season. But they work their way around it. Rich Rodriguez will go look at this film. He'll figure out some things that he needs to do. They've got a big step up coming next week in Cal. Cal's defense is legit. I don't know what North Texas put up on them or didn't put up on them, but I've watched them. against Washington, and that defense is for real.
Yeah, offensively, I thought the two things, and it didn't hurt Matt as much today because they're playing Southeastern. There wasn't the talent there to do it. I thought he floated some balls. I thought there were balls that probably get picked off if it's a middle to upper level SEC defense. And then second, kind of like the Memphis game, I thought decision making just a touch late, just a little late on a lot of breaks. Some guys open, and he sort of threw them closed a little bit. And again, today Southeastern just simply didn't have the athletes to make that matter a whole lot on defense. But Cal will. And Vanderbilt will to an extent, and then really the rest of the season. So I do think that was it's just something to watch. I thought that was the step back for Matt, was floating and then just a step touch slow on his decision making.
Barrett's got a good point, good question. He says, do you think the offense was vanilla because of the opponent, or do you think that's what the offense is going to be? A little bit of both.
They did run 80 plays, so they got tempo correct on what they wanted to do. I did think that was a little better today.
When you're in, and then Parker makes a comment right after, he's exactly right. When the interior of your line is getting beat the way that Ole Miss was getting beat, that limits the play caller. You have to be careful that you don't try to do things that get you blown up, that create turnovers. The one thing they couldn't afford to do, and they didn't do it, it's the reason they won the game. Well, they did it late, and it got Southeastern Louisiana back into the game. You can't have those plays where you have a fumble and you give them the short field. Ole Miss had two of those late. One, Jason Pellerin picked up, and the other got picked up by the Lions, and they scored a touchdown. And next thing you know, we're all
made it a little tight.
What's going to happen here? Scotty Phillips was good again today. He was a workhorse. He probably had 26 carries. That's probably about 7 or 8 more than Rich Rodriguez would have liked. Jerry and Ely had his coming out party. He was incredible. It was a huge part of the game.
Yeah, question there on Ely, and we talked to him after the game a second ago. There'll be more on rebelgrove.com about that. But he sets a freshman rushing record with number of yards. He had all-purpose yards. He had 200-something all-purpose yards. He gets 100 right at 95 on the ground. It was, and with Jerry, and I talked to him about this. He's pass blocking really, really well. He's become an all-around back so quickly. Yeah. Through just 3 games. We talked about it on the podcast, but I thought he was good there again today. He kind of likes contact. Yeah, he sort of gets it all. So that's one thing there is I think Connor early on was a little better on just vision and running the football as far as camp and the early part of the games. But from an all-around level, Jarian has really advanced quickly. I think he's a guy that's just going to continue to see those touches move because he's different out there than everybody else.
Taylor asked a question about Corral's body language and how he didn't look confident with some of his throws. Here's the thing, give Southeastern Louisiana some credit. They did a lot of just before the snap movement. It's got the offensive line watching it. They're trying to do too much. They've got Corral thinking too much. And like Rodriguez talked about a minute ago, everyone's going to replicate that now. Mm-hmm. Cal's going to throw lots of movement at him at the line. They're going to shift. They're going to do a lot of that stuff to make them think. And then, Alabama's in 2 weeks. I don't even think we want to talk about that. I mean, that's going to be –
that's not a relevant opponent right now.
No, it's not. That's just a survive opponent. But – and it might – look, it's going to be hard to score a lot of points against Cal. And someone said, with 2 keys today, win, get out injury-free. I think they did get out injury-free.
As far as Matt knew, no one was hurt past just normal bangs and bruises that come with the game.
But what you're watching is a young quarterback grow up. And be forced to grow up. And like a lot of us, you grow up through mistakes. And he's making mistakes. He's going to make more mistakes. He's going to get really challenged here the next few weeks. And a lot of his development is going to be through adversity. We knew that. I thought today, he got rattled a couple of times. He got hit hard a couple of times. And yet they put together a drive, got a score, kind of chilled. He passed the test as much as it didn't look like he was passing the test at times. It could have been a lot worse for him tonight. So one of the things Rodriguez always says about him, and I think it's interesting, is he talks about how much Matt Corral's a conscientious guy. He learns from his mistakes. Those mistakes are going to continue to happen. This is not going to be this smooth offensive machine week in and week out. And frankly, on defense, here's the one thing that has to really concern you for Ole Miss defensively. They got beat vertically a lot. And a couple of times they got beat vertically and didn't pay for it because the kid either didn't see it or didn't make the throw.
Yeah.
That's a problem because you've got quarterbacks coming up here in the next few weeks.
Because Jalen was just roasted on the one touchdown down the sideline.
Yeah, and they got beat another couple of times where balls just were overthrown One ball just got completely misthrown where a receiver was wide.
And there's going to be those opportunities because Mike McIntyre talked about it at the end of the thing today. They're going to do everything possible to stop the run because he mentioned that you at least have the possibility for negative plays in the passing game. Maybe they throw for 350, but there's sacks, there are turnovers, there's things can happen. If they're just gashing you on the ground, you're pretty much sunk before you start. So I think he's willing to give that up. However, it's going to be some islands. It's going to be some single coverage. It's going to be something that Ole Miss has to fix and can't give too many of those explosive plays. And on the other side, you're seeing another game where it's sort of the same thing. Elijah Moore goes 7 for 88. He was big again today. He gets the touchdown. Still nobody else doing much. Jonathan Mingo, 3 catches, 25 yards. Drummond, 2 for 31, and then Pellerin, 2 for 24. You're still Braylon Sanders in shorts. He hasn't played. I think he'll play next week against Cal.
That's my guess,
is the guess. They held him out one more week. There's not a number 2 receiver, and that's putting a lot of pressure on Corral. That's putting a lot of pressure on Elijah Moore, and that's something that does have to improve as well because you can't be a one-trick pony in the passing game.
And they got to get Cooley into the passing game more because when
he's a different dude.
When they are getting him the ball, I mean, he's changed his body. He's become much more athletic. They've got to figure out a way to get him, and that's certainly possible. The Southeastern Louisiana schemed him out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So give them some credit. They get paid to coach too, and I thought they had a really good plan on both sides of the ball, and they were able to execute it pretty well. To answer your question, Avery, Arkansas is bad. I mean, there was a tendency after week 1 to do the sky is falling. No, it wasn't. Just it happened. And then after week 2, hey, they fixed a lot of things. They didn't fix anything. There's just a work in progress. And Arkansas is not good. And Arkansas didn't call a very good game in Oxford a week ago. And I think I know they came back and they won because they actually covered a 10-point line, but they were tied with Colorado State late in that game today. They're not good.
Look, bottom line, it's a 7-game season in a lot of ways. There are 5 other games to where if you win those, great. You picked up one, you did something unexpected. You did whatever, great. But there's 7 games that are very winnable on the schedule. There's 2-1 in them so far. You've got New Mexico State, you got Cal, you got Vanderbilt, and you got Mississippi State, frankly, because Mississippi State looked like crap against Kansas State today. That is a winnable football game for Ole Miss. Now, it's a losable one too, but it is winnable. So we're counting through 7 games right now unless they get one back. They're 2-1. They get the win. They stay healthy because
I'll say this about Mississippi State. I watched a good bit of that game until the Cubs game came on. They're beatable. They got absolutely gashed at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball today. Their linebacker play is not good. I mean, I know it's easy to pick on Leo Lewis for being all the stuff that he did in the NCAA. Throw that out for a minute. He's not a good linebacker. He's slow. Their defensive front is not what it was a year ago with Simmons and Sweat. It's nowhere close to the same thing. And they're not as good in the back as they were a year ago. And now the quarterback gets hurt. They might have to go with a young quarterback. Hill's a good running back, but they're not great up front. They're okay, and they don't have a lot of dynamic weapons on the outside. That's absolutely – watching the 2 teams today, that is a coin toss game in Starkville.
Yeah, it is. We got to close here. I thought for Ole Miss, your positives still remain running back, Elijah Moore. Defensively, I thought at linebacker they were okay with Sanogo being gone. I thought Hillport played pretty well today. They did some okay things, kind of what you expected that to look like.
They've got to get Lakia Henry to take the next
He's got to go. He can't miss tackles. He's got to be all over the field. But then on the negative side, you need Corral to be a little sharper. Another wide receiver's got to step up. The offensive line in the middle has got to be competent and serviceable. It's never going to be All-American, but just good enough that it doesn't affect the game or the outcome of the game, if you will. And then that secondary, the corners, the safeties that get put on islands, are going to have to look back. They have to make a little more plays on the deep ball. Mike McIntyre opened with that tonight and said that simply was not good enough today, and it wasn't. He was right.
Yeah, they had a couple opportunities to make plays that they didn't make. And now the quarterback for Southeastern Louisiana is a good player. He had some throws where repeatedly in the press box we're like, man, that's a good throw. That was a good throw. That was a good throw. We weren't saying that a week ago with Ben Hicks or the Starkville kid. We weren't ever repeatedly going, oh, man, he really put that in the window.
Yeah.
This kid made some good throws. He legitimately did. I mean, I'm not trying to prop up Southeastern Louisiana. They're a 1AA team from Hammond. They're not anything special. But that kid did make some really good throws today. He might be better than the quarterback they're going to see a week from now. He's nowhere close to the quarterback they're going to see in 2 weeks. They've got to do some real improvement to even put themselves in a position to not get humiliated in some of those games. But there's time, and they're young guys. That secondary is interesting. I thought Jalen Jones tonight looked like he lost a step. And I don't know whether that was because he just didn't feel good, whether that was because he's lost a step, whether that was something going on in his head with whatever. But Here's the deal. We're gonna find out because Cal's gonna look at that film and they're gonna go right after him.
Frankly, he looked a little like Ken did that first year back, where it was some games where you went, hey, it's just not completely there. The burst is not maybe what we saw pre-injury, even saw some in rehab.
You know when you saw it a little bit was on that at the end of the first half, Southeastern Louisiana tried one of those really long field goals that the kid missed it by 15 yards, and he caught it. I don't know, right around the goal line, maybe the 2-3 yard line, whatever. And he brought it out. Now, listen, I'm not criticizing him that he didn't go 100 yards and score a touchdown, but he started left. And when he cut right, I noticed that he just didn't have the burst that he used to have.
Guy that was a kick returner.
Yeah. He used to on a kick return, like the one against Texas Tech last year before he got hurt, where he had the burst and you're like, there he goes. He didn't have that burst. Now, maybe it's today. Maybe the heat got to him a little bit. Maybe he was cramping. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but there's a number of things that it could have been. It was super hot on the field, and you saw guys with both teams going down with cramps and stuff late. So maybe it was that. Maybe it was just something really simple, but we're going to find out because he's going to get tested. They're going to go after those guys hard.
So anyway, Ole Miss 40, Southeastern Louisiana 29. Appreciate everybody stopping in with us again. This will be on rebelgrove.com and YouTube and different things. We're going to try a lot of new
nice polo. It is a nice polo. It is very nice.
Like,
I noticed
I mean, couldn't even get a collar on.
I just wore a T-shirt.
Over here.
Well, I told you that I did not want to look like twins this week.
And you knew there was no way I was wearing a T-shirt.
I made sure that and I'm wearing green pants. I knew there was no way you would wear green pants and a T-shirt. And so I said, I've got this. Okay. No chance of a repeat.
So we are going to do more of these more often. We're going to integrate those into our content. So appreciate it. Coverage at rebelgrove.com, and we'll do at least one of these. I don't know. We'll figure out when the next one is, and we'll get it to you. Yeah. We got some stuff going on.
We got some stuff happening.
They will happen, and we will talk to you again soon. Appreciate it, guys.